You can't make, once you establish a route as hazardous, you've now identified something that really puts you in binds, because we are not, unless you're a traffic police officer and your expertise is in traffic study, we can't look at a map or unilaterally just go take a walk and say this is safe. All the years I've been doing this, I would never do that. The people that are charged with being the traffic safety people in your town, they are the experts. They will determine if a street can move from hazardous to being safe. And the only way they're going to do that, if they already said it was hazardous, you have to make some changes. You just can't say, well, you know what, we changed our mind. They wouldn't do that. They would require sidewalks, they would require street lights, they would require changes in speed limits, they would require crosswalks, they would require crossing guards. There's a whole spectrum of things that would need to be done to take something from hazardous to safe.
Mr. Chair, what kind of perhaps lobbying effort or letter writing, whether it be some kind of public input towards the township and the police department is required? What did you do in Tom's River, let's put it that way, to make it happen? In other words, they're not willing to do it unless their hand is forced politically.
Well, I can't speak to that yet because I've yet to meet Mr. Frank Work, who I understand does a tremendous job here in traffic safety. I'd like to meet with him and sit down with him and like to go over what I would like to do and see us do. And I think that if we develop a working relationship similar to what was done in Tom, initially it was not very well received. The police department, I mean, I'll give you one example. We are crossing well over 600 kids across 6 lanes of Hooper Avenue from Squire Village to go to Intermediate East and Hooper Avenue Elementary School in Toms River. That took 3 years of planning, negotiating, working with the parent groups, working with the homeowners associations, and the police were dead set against that at the beginning. We had to work with the state DOT. We had to make improvements on the roads. We had to, if you
say we, is it the school? The school?
The school. I acted as a liaison from the school. We had the traffic safety director for the police department. We also had the police liaison from the township committee, and we also had the Board of Education liaison to transportation. All of us worked together. And I thought we worked extraordinarily well over those years, and it finally got down to a science. The parents knew. We opened up Beechwood Elementary School. Beechwood, if you know Beechwood, New Jersey, there's not one sidewalk in Beechwood. There was a tremendous amount of work that we had to do to improve the road conditions without sidewalks, and schooling that we had to do, and work very closely with that police department so that we would be able to do the things we did there. And to tell you the truth, 80% of that school walks to Beechwood Elementary, kindergarten through 5th grade. So it's doable. It's something that requires, I think, a lot of cooperation between all the parties. I think even the parents, as I said, would the parents love to get a bus? Absolutely. But if they know that a bus is just not an option anymore because of the realities of the way things are, then let's do the second best thing, which is create the most safe walking environment we can for our children so they can get back and forth to school. And I have to tell you, the kids after a while got to enjoy the walk, the bike ride, the different things that they would do.
Anything else, Mr. Dodd?
I'd just like to conclude with the final page. And the final page is our total savings. As I said before, on the time of route, which is the duration of 45 minutes, moving that to an hour without a restrictive hour, that would save $1.4 million. Multiple schools per route, where we would go to a destination where we would drop off kids at 2 or 3 different schools with one route. That would save $620,000. Balanced tiering, if we were able to do that, we could save up to, and again, this is based on the TAS analysis that was done, but the numbers are very real and achievable, $2.4 million. And the hazardous route reduction that I spoke of last, just by taking sections of those 2 streets, we would save $328,000, and again I caveat that by saying the police department has not blessed it, and they would need to do a traffic study and come on board with that. But I did put 2 other items on here. I told you that if you did the balanced tiering, it would affect the savings in the other areas because the balanced tiering would eliminate some of the other things that we're doing, which create inefficiencies. So I think we have a workable program. I think we have the opportunity. You don't have to take this all in one shot. We can pick certain items that you think are going to be tangible and something that you think is palatable for both the board and the public, and we can start moving forward and trying to address some of the cost drivers that are hitting this transportation department.
I have a question for Mr. Gus.
Mr. Gus, the boss, he has a question. That is his email, gusthebus@miners.org.
The kids at times are using that nickname and it's stuck, so.
And the kids in Lakewood still.
You said that the balance tiering savings would be offset by the other ideas. Let's say we take out that idea, just the multiple schools per route and the time per route. There's 146 on one and 31 on the other. Are those separate routes, or are some of those 31 part of the 146?
I don't think I understand your question. Say that again?
There's 31 routes that you said that you can combine by making multiple schools per route.
Yes.
Okay, of those 31, they're probably all part of the 146 that are coming in half full.
I would say that not all of them, but there would be some of them that would be impacted by that. So some efficiencies are overlapping.
Okay.
Chairman, I'd like just to point out that balance steering study was done a few years ago. I think at this point, from my last conversation with Bill Coyle, it's about $3.5 million savings. So it's the total probably around $6 million. But these numbers are conservative.
Yeah, I took a very conservative approach because if you do implement these, and I didn't want to have somebody tell me that I promised 3.5 million.
You'll have that anyway.
3.1.
Yes.
Just want to acknowledge Gus, excellent report.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Michael, you have the list. Question to the public?
Well, I think Mr. Silver was, oh no? No. So now we have this report, so what are we doing with it?
We're going to review it.
Okay.
What would you suggest?
I would suggest the first thing you do is you have the first reading on doing at least the first thing of changing it to shall not exceed 45 minutes to should not exceed 1 hour. We could have the first reading on that this evening already.
That would be a huge help. I would appreciate
I'll
it.
make the motion.
I'll second it.
Before you all run to make the motion, let us get the motion.
Mr. Isabel will word it.
What I understand is that it will not say, if it does say, it will say routes should not exceed.
Now in 15 minutes.
An hour.
An hour.
Well, let us ask the bus. Should not exceed an hour, is that your recommendation?
I think because you have a K-12 district and the 1 hour for a kindergartner would be quite long enough. I would like to see us stay with the hour. Would we have more opportunities to save money in an hour and 15? Yes, we would. But I think the word reasonable has to enter the discussion.
Routes should not exceed 1 hour, and that gives you some flexibility. That is the motion, Mr. Seitler?
Yes.
To amend any and all current policies and practice to allow routes that they should not exceed 1 hour, but they could go up to approximately 1 hour. Am I saying that right?
I would just like the ability for routes that exceed 1 hour through special permission of the board, that it be permitted.
And routes that exceed 1 hour will be presented to board for under special circumstances to be considered to be allowed to longer than 1 hour. Does that satisfy Mr. Gus?
Yes, it does.
Okay, is that your motion, Mr. Seitler?
Yes.
Is that seconded by someone?
Mr. Payne.
Mr. Fink. Now that we have it first and second, as board parliamentarian, appropriate time for discussion.
Through the chair. Mr. Gus, you're telling us that 1 hour is reasonable. What is the state average, first of all?
I don't know if the state has an average time. That's something the state doesn't require that. The state keeps their hands off of that. But the state did tell me that the typical limit in most districts some districts don't even have a limit, but where a limit is introduced, 1 hour seems to be the going standard that most districts use, K-12. If you have a district that is high school, it might be longer.
Is it possible to break it down to the point where we have, for the younger classes, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, maybe 45 minutes, and the rest of the older kids? You know, you're talking about little boys and girls who may not have a continence of 1 hour.
That is an issue. That's something that we had in Tom's River, and we know that that's a situation. What we did in Tom's River to address that concern is we made sure that the kids had a little potty break right before the bus dismissal. And that seemed to solve it.
Do we have enough potties? So, any other comments?
No, roll call.
Any other discussion? Mr. President, if we could have order. Do we have a roll call? Wait, we have to let the president decide.
Mr. Grunman, can we have a roll call?
Okay, I wasn't answering on the suggestion of breaking it down, perhaps for second and third grade one way, and the rest of the age kids.
Through the chair, may I suggest this would need 2 readings. This would be the first reading. At the next meeting, which is February 24th, there could be a second reading. To allow for maximum public participation, we could post this on our website tomorrow. We can also have our bus department, what a pleasure to say, our bus department actually send this out to all our public and non-public schools to allow them to know this policy, and then we could have a collaborative approach and discuss this for a second reading on the 24th.
Okay, great. Well, maybe we'll do it in the high school.
All right, so now we have that. First and second, is there any more discussion?
Yes, roll call.
Yes, roll call, that would be you.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Mrs. Micchio.
Yes.
Mr. Seidler.
Yes.
Mr. Silver.
Yes.
Mr. Tift.
Yes.
Mr. Slatkin.
Yes.
Mr. Ostreicher.
Yes.
Mr. Grunhunt.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, if I could ask through the chair that this be posted after written by the latest Wednesday, written by the board secretary, not I, and distributed in where we distribute our notice to the public, as well as sending it to our 6 schools and our non-public schools, inviting comment at our next meeting. Would anyone have a problem with that?
No.
Through the chair, I would like to make another motion. I would like to make a motion to allow 4 board members as early as this week to meet with Mr. Work, along with Gus the Bus and Chief Lawson, to discuss all the hazardous issues, as well as to try to implement this traffic study as soon as possible. And the attorney.
Well, Frank, Mr. Work, a fellow graduate of Lakewood High School, is back from Florida. We would have to see his schedule, but if provided his schedule permits, you're saying?
Yeah.
All right, so to allow 4 members to meet with Frank Work, and, well, the police chief may not avail himself, I know we're important, but Frank Work and whoever Frank Work feels is relevant to discuss, if I understand this, the hazardous routes. Actually, these 2 areas, if I may, were identified by Mr. Coyle and Ms. Bunnell at a transportation subcommittee for those of you who go to those.
But in order to implement any of our hazardous route reduction issues, we're going to need the cooperation of the police department. And the best way to do that is to start communication with them, which is as soon as possible.
All right, so the motion is to meet with his sergeant, maybe even more than sergeant, Sergeant Work, and whoever he deems appropriate for the police department.
Can I add to that motion, perhaps, through the chair?
If the motion maker allows it, but let's hear it.
The point over here is that,
It's not in the second.
well, before, it's not discussion, I'm trying to add to if we can include the township committee in it as well, because let's consider it this way. Because
If there's too many,
okay, but it may be one at a time.
Okay, so the question is, Mr. Silver does not allow.
why don't you add to the motion that we can invite any township committee members who would like to attend?
Through the chair, through the chair. Yes. The planning board has, over the last 2 years, insisted all new building, include sidewalks. The issues we've had, the planning board has gone to Ocean County, and on a lot of county roads that will be having some construction over the next 2 years. They do not want to put sidewalks in currently because the roads are going to be fixed. And the planning board, has been on top of this for 2 years right now. So I think we have to pick and choose the streets that we want.
Well, we can't pick and choose, and that's why it's a great motion to allow the police department. As Gus was saying, if you look at the Osborne litigation that went on for years, it's clearly in the attorney for the board's brief that it is unfair that the police department gets to select which only they have the expertise in, and yet the bill gets sent here. So we have to meet with the police department, and again, these two areas that Gus has identified, in fact, are not Gus identifying. So Mr. Silver correctly so is don't limit it just to these two, but to sit and have a collaborative approach. So there's a motion for 4 members, which you can decide later who. Please just don't harm each other. 4 members who can meet with the police department and their representatives, with Mr. Gus and myself, to discuss hazardous routes, and as a first step to look at these 2 roads. Would that be appropriate? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, one question. My question is the meeting to discuss, only to discuss these 2 partial routes. Why don't we have Gus ask Mr. Work to please look at these 2 routes, and then schedule a meeting with these 4 people. After he's looked at it, you're gonna come to a meeting, you're gonna say, Mr. Work, please go look at these, nothing will happen at the meeting. You need to tell him what we want to happen.
Absolutely. By this evening he'll know, and I'm sure if he's allowed, he'll find the time to look at it.
Well, through the chair?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that the list that Officer Work put together consisted of somewhere between 15 and 20 different, 20, if I recall correctly. So some of them are perhaps not as...
Yes, there's some that are just not going to work.
And that's why we're not limited to these 2. We're looking at, by law, you have to have a hazardous route policy, which the policemen...
You're going to the other extreme where it won't work because it's too hazardous, Route 9 or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking quite the contrary. There may be some smaller streets that have no sidewalk, and that's why they're considered, although they have a significant amount of traffic, but then again, it may not be as busy as Squanto.
That's part of the motion, to do a traffic study.
So
That's all
the
it's
study
going to
was
be,
done.
a traffic study.
And that is why the motion is to look at these 2 and any and all streets, meet with the appropriate police department, invite the township committee, and so be it. Is that your motion? And it's seconded? Who seconded that? Mr. Fink, any further discussion?
Go ahead.
Public, please, we're actually having democracy here.
I believe that there was such
Mr.
a meeting
Waters.
in January. I believe that there was a police officer present. And I do believe that Chief Lawson already said that these 2 are okay. I don't know if he wrote it down, but I think all it requires is a phone call and have him write a memo.
Well, actually, what's interesting in the dynamics of our multicultural township is that I thought the same.
I also did, that's why.
However, Mr. Gus showed me an email where that officer did not have the authority to do that, and something to that effect. So it is not your memory lapsing on this occasion, but we will get to that. But there is an email, Mr. Seidler, which I recently just saw myself, saying he was there, but he was there in a certain capacity, other than policeman perhaps, but he was wearing a uniform. So that is why we're going to start the process, but you are correct.
I think that we should first ask Chief Lawson what he thinks, and if he says that he disagrees with it, then we could have a meeting with him.
All right.
We're discussing other streets as well.
All right, well, we'll do both. We'll ask Chief Lawson, we'll discuss other hazardous routes, and you will make an analysis which, again, you really can't decide, and not that you're intending to, but the police department can. And I think that combined with that, we'll call it the Seitler-Silver motion.
No, Fink Silver.
Of course, Mr. Seitler. Fink, Silver Fink, actually, with the addendum of Seitler. Is that acceptable, Mr. Silver?
Yep.
Yeah, is that okay with this? All right, Mr. Fink, do you still go with your second?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion on this? Of course, we'll need this tomorrow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can you call it?
Mr. Fink,
Yes.
Mrs. Micchio,
Yes.
Mr. Seitler,
Yes.
Mr. Silver,
Yes.
Mr. Tiff,
Yes.
Mr. Zlatkin, Mr. Ostreicher,
Yes.
Mr. Grunhut.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. President, are you ready for public portion?
No, you have the list?
I do. Julie Mercer. Let's have a clap for the LAA.
The elephant in the room are the rumors out there that there will be cuts. And we've heard these before, but we are now hearing that we want to cut the budget by at least 10% or more, and that would include staff cuts. You and I know this will affect public schools. I can speak from my school, Clark School. There's not one empty classroom. Our third grades have 27 to 28 students on any given day. Fourth grade, 26. I may be a little low on that. Sixth grade average is 22. Our kinders have been 25 to 28 students. We certainly do not have small classrooms. Our district buildings are in disrepair. The LEA recently received pictures of mold and falling ceiling tiles. Teachers are buying their own supplies, as is usual, ink and classroom materials. Our internet breaks down frequently, a lot. Our technology doesn't even match those of districts around us. And when we say doesn't match, it doesn't come close to districts around us. We've already cut at least 200 teachers, paras, and staff since 2007. Not one teacher wants to see their students fail. But how do you expect this district to compete with districts who have stability in their staff and their curriculum? Everyone knows, or at least they should know, that if you have smaller classes, you can give more individualized attention to those students. And the question now is, do you have plans to cut staff this year, for next year?
Through the chair, it's interesting, can I just have those numbers you read? Because we actually, all the board members asked for these numbers. What numbers do you have?
This is from
Clark.
Clark.
I have Clark.
27 to 28 students in the third grade.
Hold on, please. Okay.
Fourth grade, 26.
Okay.
Sixth grade average is 22.
Okay.
Kinders have been 25 to 28 in some of the classrooms. 30. Sorry, I know there's one big one there.
All right. What about first grade or second?
I don't have all the numbers in first grade, but I know that they are not 14 people. 26 in second grade.
I'm trying to actually help the board.
Okay.
Wait, hold it. Through the chairman's permission. You see, the board are volunteers. They
I
pay
understand.
administrators to analyze numbers. I am looking at a chart that was prepared by the administration. I am not faulting them. I am just trying to the board. See, the board has to rely on information. There are many board members here who do a lot more than they have to, which is good. Looking at kindergarten, you're saying, if I got this right, you're saying now, 25, 28, 30. I'm just reading.
Right.
I'm not taking any position. But according to the chart we got from administration, that is, oh, I'm sorry, Clark. They told us 25 is the average. You're saying 25, 28, 30 is the average.
No, I said 25, 28 in the classrooms, and I know we have a kindergarten with 30.
So if we could ask you,
So without talking about averages.
well, hold on, let me just go through this, please. You said third grade, if you could look at your big
Okay.
split there.
27 years old.
Am I looking at it?
Not a Freudian.
It's perfectly fine. I would love a lot of time. They know I'm kidding.
It's-
27 and 28.
Right, we were told that it's 24.
Okay, I have third grade teachers here.
Well, again, we're
So
not,
we can do it that way.
well, we're
if you
not
like.
debating, I'm just letting you see, you have to appreciate the position the board is in. They're told 24, you're saying 27. For fourth grade, you're saying 26, they're being told 24. And for sixth grade, you're saying 20.
Average is 22.
And they're saying 20. What I would ask the board to allow to occur is if Julie can meet with Dr. McCora tomorrow. Doctor,
Yeah.
are you able to meet with Julie, let's say, tomorrow or the next day, to get us, why don't you two compare apples to apples? So
Okay.
the board can make it, you may not like, you will like, you won't like, but you understand the problem here.
Well, I do understand that when you're also taking averages, you can make things sound really
Well,
wonderful.
no, it is what it is.
On any given day.
Thanks to Mr. Fagan, math is math. You take the
Right.
number, you divide it, there you go.
But if you're talking about, like, I'm talking about today, currently, okay? And I had in my hand as a
I'm not
librarian.
debating with you.
No, I understand that, but I am explaining. I had in my hand today 5 transfers. I get them in the library. Every day. For every classroom.
Where do they transfer from?
From different districts, from different schools, they come and go.
But your numbers are as of today.
Yes.
So tomorrow, or very soon thereafter, Dr. McCord can meet with you.
Yes.
I'm not good at numbers, but I guess you just go to each class and say how many kids
We get the
today.
current numbers.
Good. Dr. McCord, could you do that?
Yes, I can.
We heard it.
Okay, because
Is there
my question was not answered.
What was the question?
Are you planning cuts?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because everybody is not here for busing.
Well, that would be directed to the chairman or the superintendent.
I am committed to not having staff layoffs. So we're going to work very diligently because we are at Dinny, which is a district in need of improvement. We also have 6 schools. That comprises the 6 schools that we need extra help. So I'm very committed, and we haven't had an opportunity as a board and superintendent to discuss some of the ideas, but some of the ideas you saw came up in terms of transportation. So we're looking at other areas that does not impact upon the classroom. We really can't afford to raise these numbers anymore. So that is my answer. That's what I'm going to recommend to my board.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, while Ms. Sherman is there, you mentioned something to the effect that the internet is down quite frequently. Can you tell us how frequently?
Last Friday, mine was down.
Supposedly we've got a new IT individual who came on board this year.
We do, but
We cannot discuss employees. We can discuss non-employees.
As a taxpayer,
I just want to say also that he inherited a system that hasn't been maintained in many, many years. So I'm not making excuses, but it's going to take him time to pull up a system that's been in disrepair. So we're now, on Thursday, in fact, we're meeting with some people in order to get this movement forward so we can have greater connectivity.
I think we agree on our
So I'll
point.
ask you a question a little bit differently. Do you find it a little more down these days than it was perhaps a year or 2 ago?
Julie, please don't engage in
I will
speculation.
not, but I will make one statement that we do agree that the fact that the infrastructure needs to be updated, upgraded, and therefore, when we hear comments throughout the town on let's cut the budget another 10%, I'm sent here to cut the budget by 10%. You can't cut budgets in this town and expect the buildings to fix themselves and the internet to work, and you can't have a few people working in IT, where other districts have probably 7 or 8 to our maybe 1 or 2.
So you're saying that we're understaffed in that area as well?
I agree.
Okay.
Yes. That I can answer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Markle.
I just had a request for 2 children who would like to speak. They can speak now, out of turn, because they can go home.
Are they, okay, are they on the list?
I don't know the names.
Okay, the 2 students.
Correct. 2 children, sorry.
Students.
I was,
If you could attend to, there's one.
All children.
Is there another student? Oh, are you together? You want to be separately? Okay, so just say your name.
My name is Alilda Rosado.
Oh, you were next anyway.
Yeah.
And you live at 101 Michelle Way?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm currently a high school student in Lakewood High School. I'm a senior. And I'm here to state that I love the school. I love how we have interaction with our teachers and everything we do. Like, I can go to my principal and talk to my principal and she can help me out. I feel like really bad because every time something bad happens in Lakewood in general, it's based on Lakewood High School. Why do we have so much bad publicity when we do many things, like good things, but nobody can get their mind state and focus on what we do good? I'm going to Georgia Core University next year for criminal justice. And it's like nobody focuses on how good we're doing. I'm a senior, and I work my butt off to get where I want to be. And nobody can see that. I don't think Ms. Yuli would have a problem if we invite you all to come and sit in our classes and actually interact with us. We invite you. Lakewood is open because you're going to base Lakewood on rumors when you're not even there to see it. I think everybody in this room should come to Lakewood and walk through the hallways and actually talk to our students so they can see how good we're actually doing and how good it's been since we have our new administration.
Teachers, you can clap. Come on.
Last time, I actually saw a person from the Board of Education was when something bad happened to a Lakewood cop. I would like to see every one of you guys' faces at my school.
I was there last Friday.
Don't answer him, please just continue. To know him is to love him.
But I would have liked to have a conversation with every one of you guys to actually talk to you guys, get to know you guys. Because if you're just going to sit here in a room, not even in Lakewood High School, and talk about issues about the schools, instead of actually coming to the students that go to the school every single day. I personally love it. I've been there for 4 years. This is my last year, and yeah, I'm going to miss Lakewood High School and all the memories that I had.
I believe there's one more student with Mr. President's direction, and your name is?
Ashley Alicia.
And you were the next person. You live at 15 Holly Street?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up how there's been rumors saying that they're getting rid of our administrators to replace them. I'm also a senior at Lakewood High School, and I've been there for 4 years, obviously. And we've been through 4 principals so far, but I feel like in the past there wasn't such a good system as we have now. And I feel like, why would you want to replace our administrators when they're helping our school like better our systems and everything? By you replacing it, you're just putting in somebody that's going to change our system, and there's no comfort for the students. And I also wanted to bring up how they've been cutting our after-school programs. We don't have any, as you've seen the presentation of the STEP team, we don't have anything to represent us like that. We don't have any dance, anything at all that involves us in our community. So I wanted to ask why that's an issue with us having our after-school program.
What did you used to have? I'm sorry.
We had Latin dance programs, a whole bunch of programs, and it seems like now the only thing we have is sports. That's all we have.
Okay, so you're a senior.
Yes.
All right, do you want to say anything else? All right, through the chair. There seems to be some rumors. Is there something the board needs to know about? Are we getting rid of all the administration? Because Mr. Fink called me this week and said, Michael, do you know about this? And I said, well, I don't know. I've heard rumors too. So, wait, Mr. Waters, is it? Please. Administration, can you address this? Because it seems like, something's going on.
That you don't know about. Do tell.
Are you asking a question or whatever?
Well, is there some rumor to the administration of the high school, something?
All I know, we haven't discussed.
We don't entertain rumors.
Oh, okay.
And we don't discuss any personnel. So I would refrain from discussing any of this. And I appreciate what those two students have brought up, and those issues we will be looking at. We'll definitely be looking at whether or not there's been a definitive reduction in the kinds of clubs that you used to have. And I will be in contact with your principal, so we can discuss it then.
Well, we all can't come before there's a mad rush to the high school tomorrow. We do have a visitor policy in the district. There are forms to be completed. You must sign in at the front desk, because then the next thing, we'll have everyone coming there, and then we'll have organized chaos, and guess who will be blamed? Next, Fred Rush. Fred, I saw him here. Now? Fred? We don't do that here. That's not board policy. Come on, Fred, done.
Fred Rush, 2021 Madison Avenue. You know, I sit here through that whole process, through that whole process about the buses. Well, you guys make it seem like, you know, every year we go through this. Obviously, we need to save some money. But we don't agree when kids have to walk in hazardous areas. We don't agree, you know, I got simple solutions, but because of the religious practices that the Orthodox have, I let that alone. You know, boys and girls can stay apart. But there's other things like the gentleman talked about. When you got buses, two, three buses going to the same location, there's not for us. So hopefully we'll do some of those things. But I see a bigger issue here, and it looks like there's a lot of teachers here. My God, that means a lot of ladies are not with their Valentine's ladies. Good God, right. So this is important to them. So when we hear about rumors, you know, and I heard it, Mr. Tip, if you recall, it was a month ago that we sat right there, and we saw this 10% reduction in paper that we had, that you had, and I saw, and some other people saw. Oh, you know, you're sure it's not foreign to you, Mike. You don't look that way.
10% reduction, you saw paper trails?
It was the 30 motions that they had introduced to the board.
That would be equated in 10%. So I guess what I'm saying is you just can't make blanket cuts, because you guys are messing with our lives. And the people that you see back here, you know, hey, let's get behind them. Let's give them a contract. Let's do what we need to do for them so that they can do what they need to do for our children. You know? I'm going to end it at that. You know, you guys are elected. You know what you should be doing. Administrators run the programs. You guys set policy. Also, let the administrators do their jobs and don't try to, you know, just set the policy, then leave the rest alone.
James Butters.
No, I'm not very happy tonight. First, Mike, you pissed me off with a reference to Mr. Osborne. Mr. Osborne probably lost his life caring about kids in Lakewood. And I would like him to have some respect. We lost Mr. Osborne, someone that cared about the kids in public schools. We lost Lenny, who cared about the kids in the public schools. And I thought I wouldn't say this, but the biggest mistake that Lenny made was allowing you to stay on as attorney. And I don't care how mad you get at me about this, I feel very strongly about an approach that needs to be taken at school board meetings. And people outside of Lakewood, from DC to Trenton, to the FBI, to the Department of Justice, need to know what's going on in the school district. In a school district that has a large number of minority students, Tracy, I'm glad to see some color on the board. we talk about Black History Month, which is very sacred to me, and I'm not criticizing Ms. Yulee for her presentation. Our kids don't need to see dancers. Our kids need to see people that can come in and teach them something about African American history. They need to learn about what's wrong in our society. When I look at the Michigan Law School affirmative action argument, the argument was against kids going to law school. There's no problem when you have an overbalance on a football team or a basketball squad in college. There's a problem